So our last poem is Le Christianisme by Wilfred Owen. And that's French for the Christianity. So it's kind of initially you know what the poem is going to be about or what you think it's going to be about. So it starts out, so the church Christ was hit and buried under its rubbish and its rubble. And so I kind of thought of that as an actual Christ statue in a church was hit and buried, and then it was buried by like the rubbles from the church, the rubbish and the rubble from the church, which is a good alliteration.
And I also took it as well, you had the metonymy of the Christ and the church being representing a religion. Mm-hmm. So it could be like this poem has something to do with, you know, not just this one church. It has to do with a whole religion together. And then I thought it was interesting the whole it hit and buried, like it demolished this, going back, religion. And, you know, what was the cause of that?
It makes you ask, why was it hit and buried? What was going on? Was there a war against religion, or was there a battle against this religion? And then it goes on, in cellars packed up saints, long serried, well out of hearing of our trouble. And this part is also very important because it talks about the saints long serried, and serried is a word to describe standing close together, but it's soldiers. It's used mainly to describe soldiers. So it's saying these saints. So I kind of picked it up as like, are the saints fighting as soldiers for what they believe, for this religion, for whatever is being fought against religion.
And then it goes on, the last line of this stanza, well out of hearing of our trouble. And so then it goes back, when you bring that back to the line before it, when it's the saints were long serried, these saints that are meant to be doing, like they're supposed to be doing all these, they have all these like religious obligations, you would think, or like, you know, they're listening to all these people that need help, and they're too busy fighting this war to be able to focus on their religion, which is really ironic.
And Owen himself feels like he's a victim of this because he says of our trouble. So I picked up he feels like he's being ignored, or maybe like just not really, maybe a little neglected by these saints who are packed up long serried like soldiers. And so that it also goes back to like, you don't think of saints like an actual saint being packed up, you know, like a soldier.
You think of, you know, free flowing kind of.
Yeah.
They, you know, they have their best. They know their values, so they have that freedom.
Yeah, and I mean they're placed on a pedestal because they are saints, and that's you know such an important part of the church. So then it goes on to the next stanza. It's a very short poem, only 2 stanzas, and it starts off with one virgin still immaculate, and so virgin is capitalized. So instantly you think that as a religious reference to the Virgin Mary. And immaculate can be, I mean, that means pristine, spotless, and you also think of immaculate conception. So this virgin is still like very pristine, and she's like still flawless, and she hasn't been like touched as anything in that manner.
And then the one word in between one virgin and immaculate was still, and so that kind of represents it's been a period of time, it's been a while, and she still remained pristine, immaculate, like perfect almost. The next line is smiles on for war to flatter her, which is pretty ironic. I've never really heard of anyone smile at the thought of war.
Or at a war flattering someone.
Yeah.
So she's smiling on for war to flatter her, and this, I also thought of this could also be like a statue in a church, like one virgin still immaculate, but once again, we don't really know. It could be an actual person. But, so either way, she's smiling on for war to flatter her. So that would kind of make sense as to why she was still smiling if the statue had a slight smile. But it's a very interesting choice of diction to describe this Virgin Mary, or being virgin, excuse me.
And then the last 2 lines of this poem and stanza are, she's haloed with an old tin hat, but a piece of hell will batter her. That was, at first we looked at the first line, she was haloed with an old tin hat, which was juxtaposition. A halo usually represents holiness, or like a saint. And
you think of just an actual like ring halo up on her head.
And then an old tin hat, I took it as, I thought of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Tin Man, like I thought it would represent maybe like no brain, or like not smart.
Which would further the idea of her being a statue, in the church. And then I also thought about the fact that tin was used for the weaponry in the war, so it could have been something that broke and fell on her head, or something that someone had placed there. So it could be a variety of things, but it was a really interesting diction choice once again to describe and juxtapose this halo image.
And then the last line, but a piece of hell will batter her. It shows will batter her. It's a future tense, so it's something will happen. Like maybe she'll be fighting in the war, or.
And you could think of kind of a piece of hell meaning a war, or something that's very destructive.